loaves and the fishes, the feeding of the 5,000. Do you like how in a patriarchal society the women and the children don't even count? So if you count, say, one woman and one child for every man that was there, we're talking 15,000 people out there in the wilderness. And the wilderness then was the wilderness. It wasn't out in a corn crop or in the woods somewhere. It was desert. It was sand and rock. And apparently some grass because they were sitting down. And right before this story in the Gospel, Matthew tells the story of how King Herod executed John the Baptist. And that's why in the text it says, when Jesus heard this news, he retreated to the wilderness, to a desolate place, to an isolated place. Now we all know John the Baptist as that wild man out in the wilderness who was teaching and preaching and baptizing, and he did that for Jesus. But what he preached was a little too radical. His popularity was a little too much for the powers that be to be comfortable. And so they eliminated him. So when Jesus went out into the wilderness, it might have been to grieve for his rabbi, his teacher. It might have been a case of another revolutionary, someone else who preached very radical things, someone else who was growing in popularity, making a strategic retreat, getting out of Dodge while the heat was still on. Whatever the reason, he wanted to be by himself. But the people needed him. And they found him. Here they were. They'd lost their beloved John. And they needed someone to assure them it was going to be okay. So they found Jesus. And what did Jesus do? Of course, he loved them. He didn't shoo them away. He loved them and fed them and healed them. So this moment that was supposed to be a solitude became a moment of community. He preached, he taught, and he healed all day. And the day was getting long, and the disciples said, you know, these people, they're hanging on your every word. They're not going to go anywhere until you tell them to go. You need to send them to the villages to get something to eat. It's getting dark. And then Jesus shocked them by saying, you feed them. What? Is this a lesson? Are you teaching us something? That's just ridiculous. There's 15,000 people out here. No, you feed them. With what? What we have won't even feed us, and we'd be glad to share it, but it's just ridiculous to think that it's going to feed all these people. And Jesus said, well, what do you have? 5 loaves of bread and a couple of sad little fish. Bring them to me. So they did. He took the bread, he blessed it, and he broke it. Sound familiar? He gave it back to the disciples, and they began to distribute it. And everyone had something